right. All right.
I didn't even put a timer on. Hold up.
Dale, this is natural.
Well, no,
natural.
you.
We don't have to be like, no, dale, tú dale.
It's perfect for the introduction.
Oh.
Tú dale.
You guys
It's
have to
natural.
look for.
No, it's natural. Dale.
This chair's gonna break on me.
If it...
What's up, everybody? Welcome to 2 Cents, the show where we're probably gonna give you a lesson on how to properly chalk your equipment before you use it. Welcome back, and how you guys doing?
Doing good. Still alive.
Yeah,
Still alive.
you about made it. The proper
No,
chalk,
no,
the properly chalked equipment is that if you
Mhm.
guys saw in our previous, episode,
Yep.
my dad almost about lost his trailer, and we would say his life, but he really doesn't care about it. He cares more about,
No.
the fact that he probably lose the trailer,
Yeah,
I always say, like, because I actually made fun of him. Because, he's been in aviation for over 20 years.
20 years
30
of
years.
aviation
and
skills.
Aviation 101. Always chalk your equipment.
So, yeah.
We'll put it up again on this one if you want. If you didn't see it on the last one, we'll put it up again on this one so you can see what happened to me. And things tend to happen to you after you start getting a little older, or if you start forgetting stuff.
He doesn't. He doesn't give our wives any comfort, really. You know what I mean? Because when I tell my wife that I got this, I'm in control of everything, then she sees something like that and she questions our future sometimes. And she questions me because she didn't think I'm going to live long enough to see past 50.
Yeah, my wife, mom, she literally hates leaving me by myself. I put another one because I think it was I was moving a washer and dryer and well, you'll see it.
You'll
definitely.
And you know what's crazy? Going back to what we were talking last time, technology. If that ring camera was never invented,
that's a benefit.
We would never. Nobody would ever believe you.
Notice or believe you. Or even know the fact that you might have just been laid up in the lawn for like 20 minutes.
Granted, I got cameras all over my house, but I would say half of the stuff that I get involved in where that something happens, sometimes the cameras don't catch it, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Depends on which way you want to see it. A while back when I was building the bar, I accidentally nailed my finger to the bar, and nobody was here because mom was running around doing errands, and I was like, what do I do? I'm just sitting here doing nothing. So you know what? I'm gonna go finish my bar, and I went to the back, and I got an air gun, nail gun and everything, and I put some music on. Man, I'm cranking him over, and it hit me, literally.
Right on the finger.
It hit me when I was holding the piece of board, trying not to put it on the marker on the line, and when I hit it, that's when it dawned on me, and at the same time, like,
move your finger.
Dang, and by the time I tried to move my finger, it was like too late. It wouldn't move. And I was like, oh, and then I looked, and you could see the nail. Luckily it was a finished nail, those little thin ones. And pulled my finger out, went inside. I left everything out there. I just came inside, washed my finger, sat there in the kitchen waiting for mom to get home, and she was like, so what did you do? I said, I nailed my finger to the bar. Things like that happen. But
unfortunate.
But in other news, I mean, everything's been good.
We survived the week. It's a hot one too.
Yeah.
So
it's nice. I like it.
Yeah, well,
Did you see the astronauts that came back?
Yep.
They brought him back.
Welcome back. By the way, welcome back, astronauts.
There's a lot of things going on with that because they're showing the videos of it like touching the water and all that stuff. They're like, oh my God, it's so AI generated or something like that.
I asked the same question. I was watching it and it was like, man, now I don't know if I believe him or not. Because, here, the strangest things that happened to me. You saw it. So Thursday was...
Oh, that's right.
Wednesday, Wednesday was
Forgot
the
about that.
18th.
Yeah.
According to what the news was saying, that the astronauts were going to be back on the 19th, right?
Yeah.
It was the 18th, and I got the video of the touchdown, but it said astronauts came back safe March 19th.
I never noticed that.
I
though.
was asking everybody. I was like,
he was asking
what day
everybody.
is it? They're like, it's the
Everybody
18th.
at work, yeah, he's like, it's the 18th.
And you got to understand, we work nights, so it actually was the 17th. It was midnight, so then it became the 18th. And I got the video on my phone, and it said the 19th. So now I'm confused, right? Now I'm
where
like,
did they touch down?
in Florida.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense.
See, that's what I'm saying.
No,
How
it
did I
would
get the
because
video?
isn't the eastern
no,
area
no,
like
no,
hours?
Yes, it's hours ahead.
Head.
But
Hours.
hours. They're not days
They're
ahead.
not
of us,
days
man.
ahead.
Well, I know they're
It
not
says
days
it Back
ahead.
to the Future.
No, I understand that, but it's still days ahead, and it was nights when we figured it out. Oh wait, no,
Yes,
but you said
because you said
17th going
17th
into
going
the
to
18th.
Yes. So now I'm like,
Do you think that
did they
made
leak it?
Did they mess up?
Did they mess up and leaked it? And then I couldn't find it anymore. So now I'm like, now I'm confused.
Are you sure you didn't see anything?
I showed them.
He showed everybody.
I showed them.
Did you screenshot it?
The only
No, I
thing
did
is
not.
the only
All this technology that we have now,
it
and you
didn't
don't.
it didn't happen then.
yeah.
Well,
But
we don't
number
know.
one, I didn't know how to screenshot it,
You just hit the power button and the volume.
whatever that is. But it freaked me out. Like, wait a minute here. This is not adding up. Because
well, no,
you know the reason why?
the
'Cause I
only
was
thing is
waiting
one of the
for it.
guys.
I was actually excited to see this happen. That's why I was like excited for it. And then all of a sudden, now this come out. I'm like, did I miss a day?
The only conclusion that they came up with, and one of the guys that we work with, our buddy Blake, shout out Blake, he said it might have been Zulu time, but that's probably the only conclusion he came
Actually,
up with.
yes, Zulu time.
Yeah, see?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would make
Yeah,
sense.
but
that-
I don't know why.
That goes by hours, not by days.
No, it does.
No, it don't.
Yes, it does.
No, it don't.
Because every time I
No,
go,
it
every
don't.
time,
You're
No,
arguing with an
understand-
expert.
Yes, because understand that we, as far as getting like our dispatch notes for fuel receipts and stuff like that, it'll say Zulu time and Zulu date for the next day. That what confuses me too. Believe it or not, every time I see the dispatch orders for a flight that leaves today, the date will equal out to Zulu time of tomorrow. Because I asked them that, I'm like, why do you guys always have your date wrong? And they said, no, that's Zulu. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that.
Zulu time.
Okay, that
That could make sense. But it's still kind of weird though, right? Like
because they don't usually put
they
it
don't
out
know.
in Zulus.
I never have ever seen it in
They don't
Zulu
put it
time
Zulu.
all the time.
For those people that don't know what Zulu time is basically Zulu time is it's the one time that the whole world goes by. So it avoids them from going from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
But
to
what local time?
9 p.m. What's local time?
Eastern.
So pilots, a lot of pilots, and I get astronauts. Okay,
yeah.
I get it. They go with Zulu time, which is the same time all around the world. So I think it's like depending on where you are,
It's plus or minus
it's
6
plus or
hours,
minus
5
6
or
hours,
something like that,
5 hours, depending on where you're at. You can look it up on Google and you can find out what your Zulu time is wherever you're located, and then you just continue that. Now, I remember we used to have it, which I would love to have that on my watch. I'm just,
right.
but I'm just, I like
You can.
I like to be what do you call it? Weird, I guess. With that.
Yeah.
But
Well, you have the back then. Of course, used to always have the clocks on the
we
wall.
always had the clocks on the wall, man. It was like Central, Eastern,
Zulu.
and then Zulu. So and you would always have to specify. I got a plane coming in. We'll be there at 1800, and then you would make sure you ask Zulu time, and then they would have to verify, or they would say no Central time. So then you look at your clocks,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go, okay, he said 7, okay, blah blah blah, okay, Zulu, and then you would write your Zulu time.
Right.
So for those that are not aware of that,
The more we know.
Yeah, we just might have solved that conspiracy, but at the same time, it is kind of
it's
fishy.
kind of weird, man.
It is
I'm
kinda fishy.
still like
Because
thinking about
look at
that.
this. Look at it this way. They spent what? How many months? They spent like almost Thingy
Like,
They
or-
spent
9
forever,
months,
9
something
months.
Nine
like that.
or
months.
so out
9 months.
there.
Right, they spent 9
Stranded.
months over there
Yeah.
stranded. They're in a space station,
Cooped up.
recirculated up, now mind you, recirculated oxygen, all that jazz, right?
Hmm.
They come down to Earth, they get in, they're so weak that they have to get on top of the seats and stuff like that. But isn't there something like where if you spend so much time somewhere and then you're down here and oxygen in the Earth is not the same as like oxygen somewhere up there?
Well,
Isn't
they
that
have to
isn't that
spend-
bad for you?
If I'm
Or not bad for you, but it's like you have to adjust.
I think they have to
They,
spend
they have to spend another week or so
yeah.
in the hospital.
in the hospital. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
they can check their vitals and make sure their body's starting
So they
to get
can
back.
breathe and
So they can
because-
get
Yeah,
back into
yeah,
the.
get
But
the
what I'm
nutrients
saying
back
is,
there.
as soon as they got here, like they opened their masks and they started to breathe the air and all that. So I would think that they would have kept them in there
No.
until they got them out.
Oxygen tanks, man.
No. But they
No,
had
I
the
know what he's
mask
saying.
open.
I know what
I know
he's
they had
saying.
their mask open. I know.
Yeah, I know what he's saying. He
They
said
had
like
no-
a transition, like
Yeah, I know
since
that
you've
he,
been up there
yeah,
and
yeah.
over here, don't you need to try? You know, it's a good question. I don't know if there's
I'm
there's
sure
an
somebody
astronaut-
that knows.
yeah, if there's anybody
There's
that can
an
answer
astronaut
Because
that.
that's another
My-
conspiracy
my-
that
my-
they
my-
were saying.
like to
My
know.
common sense is that you can probably last a little bit long, with the mask probably open, and once the medics come in, they know which oxygen to put or
They
whatever to
didn't
give
put
them breathing.
oxygen on
No,
them.
they
bet-
didn't.
No.
Okay, well I
Like
didn't see
from
the thing.
capsule
I didn't see it.
down-
That's why.
I saw the videos of
Oh, you
them
saw the
bringing them
video?
up, yeah.
Okay.
They then and that's how there people are like speculating. Nah, that's fake. Like
I met
Isn't
I
that-
met several astronauts when I was working in Laughlin. Two of the most famous ones that I met that people might know.
You watched Neil Armstrong go into the
No,
you
into
did?
the thing, didn't you?
No,
He did. He really did. It was phenomenal.
no, I didn't have television.
No,
I know.
oh, okay.
No, I met because they always fly their 38s.
Yeah.
They do flight training, and they would go to Laughlin, and one of them was his name is Joe. They made a movie recently from him.
was it the other one about the
A
Hispanic?
million miles. Or a
Yeah,
million
yeah,
miles.
with
I know
Peña.
with Michael Pena. Yeah,
With Michael
Yeah, Michael Peña starred on it. Okay,
You met him?
I met the original one.
The actual guy?
The original guy, yes.
Yeah,
I met him,
Yeah.
talked a little bit with him and stuff when he was getting loaded. At the time, I did not know exactly
Oh,
who
wait a
he
minute. So
was.
at the time that you met him,
Yeah. At the time that I met him, I did not know.
when was this? By the way,
I knew he was an astronaut. This was, what, 93, 4
So basically, while he was going through all
while
this,
he was going through his
no
training.
way, they should have called somebody for you to.
And, but I, like
Somebody
I said,
to play
I
you.
didn't,
Yeah,
right?
they should have played it.
But I didn't know who he initially was.
Yeah.
It just struck me kind of strange because I have never met a Mexican astronaut, like a Mexicano,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
and I recognized, I saw his name, and that's what kind of drew me to it. So I asked him his full name, and he told me. And then here we are years later, right? Years later. He even told me, it was so funny because at the time we were talking, he even told me about, remember in the movie that he had tried to become an astronaut so many
Oh, yeah.
times,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
He literally, because I asked him, dude, how hard is it to be an astronaut? And he literally told me, he was like, oh, I tried 12 whatever times.
X amount of times,
yeah.
yeah.
I was like, and the movie came out, I'm like, I remember him saying that. It took him a long time to
Dude,
to
it was
get
a
there.
very
And,
great movie in my opinion too.
But yeah, and then years later, I'm sitting here watching, and I saw the clips, and I was like, you know what? And I'm, like I said, I'm always curious when it comes to documentaries. I like to start looking into it and stuff. And I started looking into it, and I'm like, man. And then I saw younger pictures of him, because it's Peña playing him, right?
Yeah.
But then I saw younger pictures of him in those things, and I'm like, holy cow, this. I met this guy.
You met- yeah.
And I met him, and I met the other one, the one that passed away in the Columbia when they were on entry. Michael, I forget his last name. He was the black astronaut.
You had a
young
picture
guy.
of him. I remember.
had a picture of
You
him.
had a picture of
He
him.
literally,
Yeah.
he literally gave me a signed autograph picture and a patch.
Oh,
When he was in
sweet.
Del Rio,
Yeah.
and I met him, talked to him for a little bit, and I asked him because at the time you were, I think you were like 3, 4 years old or something. But he was in this era of planes, you know. So then I was like, yeah, you know, my kid, you know, wants to be a pilot and whatnot, you know. And I asked him, I says, if I give you my address, could you send me some stuff, you know, for my kid? And he did.
Yeah.
And man, I mean,
Yeah.
that
I
guy,
remember.
man, I'm telling
I
you,
remember.
So
he didn't have to.
yeah.
I mean, of
But he
all
did.
the people that he met, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have to. But he grabbed the paper, put it in his pocket, and he left. I forgot about it. A month later, I received an envelope in the mail, and it said NASA.
That's cool.
And I'm like, what?
I remember.
Opened it up. There was a picture of him autographed.
Autographed and
Him
everything.
standing by the space shuttle.
Uh-huh.
and everything.
Yeah, blue uniform. I remember
Wow.
clear as day. I remember the face.
Yeah,
I don't remember that picture.
Yeah.
It was there. In my career, which is funny, like 90s was a transition for a lot of things, right? I also met, and she was I was her crew chief there at Laughlin, and McSally. I remember her, they used to call McSally. And she became one of the first, if I'm not mistaken, she was either the third or the first group, but anyway, to become the female fighter pilot.
Nice.
And she was flying A-10.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
And
That's cool.
And she was hilarious, dude. She was like she liked to not joke, but she's very, what do you call it? You know, treated the guys like
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
joking and when
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
and whatnot, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, hey guys, how you doing? My plane ready, whatever. You know, we used to play jokes on each other and stuff. As far as like, what I mean by jokes is back in the day we used to play jokes on the pilots, where we used to either act like it had a hydraulic leak, and we used to come out with a rag full of hydraulic, and then
I know where this is
when the
going.
plane was running, you would go on, you would look like, oh, something wrong. You know, you tell them, let me see your hands. So they would show you your hands, and then you will go in there, and then you just sit there for a little bit, and then come out, and you pull out that oily rag, right? So the pilot, you would tell them, hey, it's good, and rag. I mean, like, so now you see the guy lifting up his visor with eyes like this, like, hey man, what the you know. But it was just all in fun, you know. And back in, I remember we used to pull. We had pilots that would rotate back from being in what do you call it, Germany, you know, Saudi Arabia,
Oh, the
all that,
Eurofighters.
Yeah.
all that stuff, and they would come back and they would become trainers.
Yeah.
And dude, they were the best pilots that we've ever had, because people that have been in situations where they were on actual missions, they knew what my plane can do and what plane cannot do.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But then they started changing, where they started making students graduate
And become
and
trainers.
become instructors.
Yeah.
So they didn't know what it was to complete the mission. So you had like, I literally had one. I cannot make this up. He comes out and he goes, why does my plane, it's got a bunch of bird crap on the wing? And I said, well, sir, it's bird crap. It's been sitting outside. I mean, it's bird crap. He goes, yeah, but I don't know if I want to take, can you give me another airplane? I said, I'm not going to give you another airplane because it's got poop on the wing, bird crap. Well, I cannot make this up. He said, well, I'm afraid that it might disrupt the airflow of the wing.
Huh?
Exactly.
The pilot told you that.
And that's how
pilot.
the new
This
generation
is
pilots
actually a good.
started.
What do you think? Is this
Okay.
a rent-a-car place?
Yeah.
Like,
Wait. This is actually a good little intro to this part. So as everybody knows, my dad's worked in aviation his whole life, and throughout that, he's passed it on to at least 4 of his kids.
Five,
You know,
actually.
and yeah, and Um, so what we so what we're doing today is, you know, each of us kind of talk about our experience in the aviation world, what it's given us and what we've learned from it, and all, you know, we can swap another cool story here and there, because I know you have a lot of few ones of yourself. I remember about that one T-38 pilot yelling at you because he
Oh,
didn't put that gear up.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, go
so
for it. That's
we'll
good.
yeah, we'll do that. You know, like, but going back to that, you know, you've worked in, how many years is it going on now?
Well, I started back in 92,
Nine.
1992,
Yeah.
and then I did not finish until 2013. And then I came over here and worked with the FAA for another 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's, yeah. The, although I will give you this, the when I worked here for the FAA, working for them, the pilots were not. I mean, you had one that maybe questioned a lot of stuff, but
You
for the
were you
most
you
part,
you
they were
you were
more
in
like,
you were in a
Lay
time,
back.
and that's the cool part about your time, is that you were in a time where, you know, that one gap, and it's still going on today, but that one gap, and rewinding back to the pop culture of things, whenever we were talking about last time of that, you were in a time when Top Gun, the movie
yeah,
Top Gun,
yeah,
was
the original
the
Top Gun,
original
yeah.
Top
Yeah.
Gun. You know, it really, essentially, Top Gun is essentially an ad for the Navy, for fighter pilots.
They
But
increased their
After that,
recruitment
yeah,
after that movie.
after the
I bet you
recruitment,
they did it the same way for
Navy
this movie,
recruits.
the second
yeah,
one.
and that's the thing. That's the thing. So yeah. So you were at that time. So how was that from? I know you were still a kid back in, like, when it was 85, but talk about, again, 92. Was there still that
You
was there
know
still
that
that
I
feel of
was
They're celebrities,
the
right?
celebrities, that ripple effect that
I
movie
was
had? Or
yes,
yeah,
because I was in the class or aircraft maintenance in my last year of 91, graduating 91.
yeah,
I was in the classroom in aircraft maintenance, and our teacher, Fred Langford, man, I don't know even know if he's still around. Um, he brought two pilots in because they were waiting for their aircraft to get ready, so he
yeah,
brought them into the classroom.
yeah,
And remember, Top Gun had just come out and everything else. And he said, "Hey, sir, you might want to give these guys a little inspirational speech, because they're going to be working out here and stuff
yeah.
like that." And I remember that guy saying he was a captain. He says that, man, there's nothing. He started talking about his airplane and the
Right,
stuff that we
right.
do and all that stuff. And he goes, yeah, but I'm telling you, there's nothing better than to go Mach 2 with your hair on fire. And we're kids, right? We're
Yeah,
looking at, we're
yeah,
watching, listening to him talk and everything. When he said that,
yeah.
we didn't say nothing, but we all looked at each other like,
Mhm.
like, yeah, he watched Top Gun.
Yeah.
But and that was the one of those things that they would say. And then for us, to me personally, it was the rumbling of them engines, man. We had to do a couple of checks because I started working in transit alert. That's where I really got more of the getting down and dirty type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
38s, T-37s. You would launch them out and everything, but you were never like in there. Like, you had to be away from the aircraft. You have to have your safety standards and whatnot and whatnot.
yeah,
But when an F-18, F-16, F-15s,
yeah.
they come in, when I was working for Transit Alert, then you would have to go in there, make sure you check panels, make sure you check pins, make sure you check chip detectors and all that stuff. You put away pins, and now you guys know what I'm talking about, because you got to put your pins and you put them in the wheel well, right?
Will, yeah.
Doing it when the engine is rumbling, right above you, going in there.
The exhaust hitting
Yeah.
you while you're trying to get the
You know
pins.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Just feel it.
To me,
you
it was
feel
just-
it
it
right
was
here,
just-
man.
it
You
was
feel
just-
it right here.
It was the
adrenaline.
best. It was just the best, and that's why I loved it. I really did.
And Marcos, you entered into the aviation business.
I've been eight going on 8 years. So
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Before that was doing nothing because we were in Kansas at the time, but working in a lumber store, nothing much going on. Moving down here, and then of course, he was working at the airport with the FAA, and he got me the job as a line service. And
Yeah.
Man, dude, it's like learned a lot. All the working with the military, with private corporate jets, and you're working with all kinds of aircraft. And now I work with the big giant, you know, people like Amazon, fueling
Yeah.
them and all that stuff. So it was quite an experience going, because not only did I learn about, you know, line services or doing the out on the flight line,
Right.
but I also learned the fundamentals of running a business. You know,
Yeah.
because my boss was kind of saw me, and then he just like kind of grew me from there. I thought it was just great. So I learned more of like aviation management as well.
Mhm.
That's the one thing that I didn't even think about
Yeah.
going into the job.
Yeah.
But like I have these like moments where I look back when I was a green little young
Just
kid,
green, yeah.
and then now I look at myself now, it's like, damn, like I really wish I got into aviation much, like at least into the job much sooner,
Yeah.
because then I would be more advanced and much more far ahead in my career, to be honest. So
That's cool. Yeah, it's been a learning experience, and then, you know, we got our other brother. We got two more brothers that work there, and then, you know, I came in maybe 2-3 years, you know, into the business. You know, 2-3 years ago, started right where he worked, or Marcus worked at, and man, I tell you, when I tell you it was the coolest thing I could ever do in my life. That was literally the coolest thing I ever do in my life. Is I got to work with so many different, you know, so many different people and so many different pilots and so many different aircraft that I could ever dream of. And that part was pretty cool. And to get my kiddo into the, you know, into this, and showing him like now he's an aviation nut, you know, because originally what I was wanted to be was a pilot, you know, a fighter pilot, because again, that gap, you know, it was 90s, you know, the only you know, actual military, you know, pilot movie that was actually good was Top Gun, and that's the only one that I saw. When I saw it, I wanted to do that, so then naturally that's what I wanted to do. But at the time, you know, you had to have good eyeballs to do it, and I didn't have any good eyeballs.
you know, pop culture for Top Gun is like, if you look back at it now, knowing what you know now, like sometimes you could point out like, oh, that ain't real. Like all that.
That's one thing that everybody agrees on. Ever since we got into aviation, we could not watch. I mean, and I know any movie,
The perfect one.
Movie
Was it Face Off?
Yeah,
Face Off.
Yeah.
The perfect one was, you know, when they're trying to take off, and like the guy gets shot, the pilot gets shot, and then you see him trying to go for the yoke. And he's doing this, trying to drive the airplane. And then we're just like,
nah, man. This is a bunch of BS.
Well, you can name any song. You can Con Air.
Con Air?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Yeah, no, you can't do that. And then
the plane, when it lands and it gets right into the ground, into the dirt, I'm like, that plane's got to be made out of cast iron, because there's no way all them prisoners got to pull that plane off, and it's perfect. Like you just got to spit shine it, and it's good to go.
The proportion of sizes of the fuselage, like people, that's a lot of the times where they get movie gets around. Like if you're in a corporate jet and somebody walking in and it's a Lear 75.
Oh yeah.
And you, mind you, Lear, in real life, the Lear, I'm tall. I have to be on my knees, and I'm still have to hunch over in that plane. It's a corporate jet, but like if I see it in the show or a movie, it's a Lear. The guy walks in, and then they pan into the plane, and the guy's standing up all the way.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, and then it's bigger. Like the fuselage cannot fit us three sitting like this. It's only two people, and you have the camera panning like it's 4 or 5 people wide. And I'm
it's as wide as a train.
Yeah,
like
and we worked on, you know. And we worked around planes, and even the planes in the show, when they show up in the airport areas, how they position them. You know, sometimes they show up like straight up ahead, right up to the in front of the door of the.
They do that, but like,
and I'm like, that's not how you do that
at all.
You know,
and they have it hooked up already and everything.
So yeah, it kind of ruins this for us.
Oh,
watching movies like that.
This is how far it ruins it. This is how far the last Star Wars movie we went to go watch. And in there, the Falcon, the Millennium Falcon crashes, you know, and the guy comes out, and we're like, all right, everybody's got to do this. We got to head out this way. You got to head out this way. It's going to take us 2 hours to fix this landing gear, so we need to hurry up. And I saw that, and we work on landing gear. We're like, it doesn't take 2 hours to fix the landing gear. That's no.
So Oh,
So yeah,
it does. I mean, um,
yeah.
okay. So now that we're talking about aviation and as far as like that, um, games that you used to play,
Games that we used to play.
games that you used to play on the flight line.
We used to bet on. We used to put a quarter down right on the line, and we used to bet if we are gonna either overshoot the parking or under parking.
Uh,
That one was good.
we played practical jokes most of the time. We didn't play games
Okay,
per se
practical jokes.
Yeah,
because like you have people that like some people you can you can actually go as far as like say tell them something they'll believe it. And the thing is that when you I think the one that it was man dude it was this kid. So it was a little colder at the time and we're getting ready to tow a G280 and the way you hook up to it is there's there's like a little ring and the tow bar hooks up and then you put a pin, boom, right there.
Mhm.
But sometimes if you don't have the bar kind of like at a good angle, you sit there and you're like pulling that pin out and you're like you can't pull the pin out.
Yeah.
Like it has a cotter pin, but you take that off and you can't pull it out. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, pull it out because I just gotta drop it off here. I gotta get another plane. And kid is like, dude, I can't. I'm like, it's cold. And I was like, oh, dude, it's because it's like frozen. Just spit on it real quick. Just spit without hesitation. This dude just. I'm like, no, I was great, bro. Like, chill great. Without hesitation. Now, mind you, he's a great worker. That's why I like the guy because he listened.
I did. Okay. So you know how sometimes the F-18, when it's getting ready to go and they shoot their lights, and then naturally your instinct is just to start, just start going. Well, sometimes they'll do they'll pump the
Brake
brakes,
checks,
the
yeah,
brake
brake
checks, and sometimes they won't. And but since I had a new guy, I told him, hey man, just wait over there. I want to talk to the pilot real quick, make sure we're going through, everything's copacetic. I went up to the pilot. He's like, hey dude, like, are you gonna do a brake check? Dude? He's like, I normally don't. I'm like, I got a new guy over there, man. Go ahead and do the brake check thing, and make him hesitate or freak him out. So he starts going, and then doing his checks and whatever. The light hits, and he's just like, all right, go, and then all of a sudden, bam, the guy. I'm like, no. And the pilot is just laughing his butt off in the cockpit. He gives me a thumbs up. I'm like, yeah, man.
Now, see, back in my day, back in the '90s, I said we had those pilots that rotated in.
Well, you worked on a military base too,
Yes.
so
That
mine
was
knew
different,
that was different.
Well,
yeah,
but see,
I
I
can't
noticed.
go too far with mine.
No.
Yeah.
I noticed. No, this was the pilots doing it to themselves.
Oh.
They were doing it to each other, but we were just part of the prank. You know what I mean? We just
Okay,
went on.
yeah.
But the problem is that nowadays, again, I think it was if I'm not mistaken, 95, 90-ish, 95 to 2000. They started where you couldn't do that no more. The pilots couldn't act that way no more. Couldn't do none of that.
That's no fun.
No more. And what it was is, so one time the pilots come out, like they would literally walk out. And back in the day, they had parachutes that they would carry with them. So we used to call them Ninja Turtles or turtle packs, because that's what they look like shell. So they would come out and they would come up with the parachute, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, every now and then you had a student that was so focused on getting everything done, and they would walk out with the instructor, right? And you go out to their airplane and you help them get the plane ready, pull pins, covers, whatever. And then you notice, hey,
You don't have it on.
this guy don't have a parachute. What the heck? But the instructor knew, so the instructor would go off real quick and tell you, hey, don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. And as soon as he said that, don't say nothing, you knew. Oh, he forgot. He was, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you just stand there. So the guy would do his walk around, do everything. The instructor would tell him, all right, do walk arounds. Okay, we'll do a walk around, check the airplane. The instructor would be talking to me. Hey, Jerry, how's it going, man? Hey, no problem. Whatever. Okay, cool. Instructor will get in, start strapping himself in.
Yeah.
Student will climb in. As soon as he will climb in, and then he'll go like this. Well, of course, now you
Oh.
notice.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you notice. So he'll go like this, and he was like, and the instructor's he's already sitting there, like this, with his hand on on the rail and stuff, and he's like,
Looking up front.
no, it was a two-seater, it was a side by
Oh, the
side. So
tweeter.
you look at him and everything, and he'll be like this, and then all of a sudden he'll be like, you look at him and he'll go, bah, smack him on the helmet. And he goes, what'd you forget?
My parachute.
My parachute. Oh yeah, your parachute. Now you're making us late. Get out there and go get it. He'll make that guy run
All the way back.
all the way back to go get his parachute.
That's
And then, don't you think they have to do it again?
What?
Did he make him do like a walk around again?
No, because he was already. As
done.
long as one of them did not leave,
Okay.
the walk around was still
Sweet.
Okay.
still
Because I know sometimes, like I've
But
seen
if
it
they walk
before.
away, they have to come back. I better do another one.
I know I've
Yeah.
seen somebody like if they forgot like something, like even a piece of like a pen or like their book, they'll make them go. Even though they did the walk around, he had them. Okay, do it again because he didn't check it off of his
Yeah.
book. If you
Yeah.
don't take it off his book, it never happened. Do it
Damn.
again.
man. Dang,
And
that's-
it's part of learning, It's part of learning.
Yeah.
But we had one guy that. Oh, dude, here's a good one for you. We had a colonel that was sitting in the back seat of a T-38, flying with the captain.
Uh-huh.
Captain's in the front.
Okay.
Colonel's in the back. We get called. Hey, we have we need you guys to report to the end of the runway because we had a fault engine. And I'm like, what? Fault engine? Like, me and my partner jump in and we take the tug and we go over there.
Mhm.
And there's a T-38 just sitting there. So they give us the tail number and everything. We go, okay, we're there. When we show up, I get off. I normally talk to the one in front. That was my thing. I would go to the guy in front seater. Hey, sir, they called us, said you had a FOD engine? And he's taking his stuff out, put it in the bag and everything. And he looks at me, he goes, I'm like,
Uh-oh.
Okay.
which engine? And he tells me, engine number 2. Oh, okay. So I go to the engine number 2, I look in there. The checklist, the checklist they always wear
Yeah.
in their leg? They're strapped to their leg.
No.
The colonel they were at the end of the runway, and I guess he wanted to reposition something, or he dropped something, or he couldn't, something like that. But he took off the checklist
Oh,
and he put it on the rail,
And if
right? As he's trying to, that thing just right into the engine. Flooded on
Ah, the
man.
colonel.
the colonel.
the colonel.
You're talking about. Wait, you said colonel and
Full bird
then
colonel. Yes.
in front of him was the
captain.
captain.
Yeah. Captain
You-
just told me, and I
Yeah.
looked. I went in there. I looked, and I go.
going,
I looked
yeah,
at the colonel. Colonel was red, man.
yeah. Going back to that, yeah. What are some of the biggest highlights you guys have had running into Marcos? Like that story
No,
about the
well, speaking of T-38,
yeah. Speaking of that
so
story of the
I was just barely. So the thing is that we, of course, as a private, we're a private. This is civilian. This is not where he worked at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
military,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
we
the thing
always
that difference is that when the pilots come to us, we have a contract and we help them out as much as starting them up, which is then requires a external air start, right? We do that like them, but we try to help them up there, putting
Yeah.
their steps up, doing all that, making sure, hey, when they do their signs, we understand what their signature, what they're doing when they do their checks. But as far as liability wise, we do not. There's no like checklist that we have to abide by their checklist.
yeah.
They're
you guys don't
they're
carry-
on
They
the
don't-
sole
they don't
responsibility
carry
of
that.
that
Their
aircraft when it
responsibility.
leaves.
Yeah.
So and mind you, this is the first time I actually did by myself. So they trained me up. They were confident in me. And I said, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I went to do 4 of them in a row, though. My first time to do it by myself, like nobody watching me, was
Yeah.
4 aircrafts in a row.
Yeah.
Mind you, usually nowadays, I wouldn't even let the guy do it. I only let somebody do one by himself because of that very reason. But back then, this is not how they did. They just threw me into fucking wolves and they just said, hey,
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Well, 4 in a row. Started getting them ready. I was putting their steps up. but I was trying to get to the very end.
Yeah.
The leader,
Yeah.
which is the pretty much their captain. He was at the very end. I was kind of going along the line, but he told me, no, start him up because we're trying to get out here as quick as possible. I said, okay, cool. Didn't even bother him at that point. Came back, started him up. Boom, 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 boom. Well, I launched him up. Oh, okay, cool. Drove back. I see them running pattern again because they took off, but then one of them just stayed in the pattern. Fire department comes out, started going up. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Emergency landing, landed, came up. I caught him again. It was the squadron leader. See it, and then he's going, and I see the steps just laying down the ground. I'm like, oh damn, oof. And the guy was pissed off because I was like, oh, I'll go over there and put him up.
Put
And
him back
he's like, no. He started like waving at me, stop, no. Gets down, he's like, why didn't you check me, man? And this and that. And mind you, I'm still fairly new. I said, sorry, sir, that's I guess my fault. I didn't go over there. You told me to.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Okay, cool. He goes to my boss, and then my boss goes to the vice president of the airport, and that starts asking me like, this and this and that. Which, granted, thank God that my boss that I currently still work under, he's always been on my side because he was like, because he looked at the squadron leader and said, wasn't that part of your checklist? And he said, well, yeah. I was like, then we're not liable. I'm sorry, that's not my guy's fault. It's your responsibility to put them steps up, and you didn't.
And mind you, we got guys in that job that have military background, and especially some in the aviation area.
Mhm.
So they're very familiar with the whole military part of it.
Yeah,
So-
but again, if you're in, for those of you that don't are not been around it, or if you are in the military area, as far as aviation, they'll train you.
Yeah.
They'll train you for days even before you hit the flight line.
Yeah.
So, in the civilian world, you learn as you go.
Yeah.
So it's totally different. Even the pilots know, military pilots, they know that when they go to a civilian airport, they know these guys down there are not trained as their own crew chiefs back on base.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So they have to they share that responsibility to say make sure my aircraft is up to date.
Yeah.
Or it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Make sure all my panels are closed. Make sure everything's is up to date.
Yeah.
And this is how I know.
So a lot of people don't understand. They assume that just because this guy's out there launching an airplane,
they know everything.
he should know. He knows.
Yeah,
everything.
he should know everything. Yeah, but
It's
it's
all the
like,
time.
like I was saying, it was a good thing he had someone on his side that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
because
He was trying to tear you a
he
new
was
one.
trying to tear me a new one, and to the point where he was like telling him to reprimand me and all that stuff. But he was like, "No, it's not. It's y'all's checklist and stuff like." Because every time now, and then I noticed that after that, I made sure all the seats were up, or the steps. But at the same time, every time they get in, they're like go like that, and they're getting cool, and then they just kind of reach out.
Make sure
Make
there's
sure
Yep,
their steps
make sure the
That's what
steps
they
are
do. They just make sure their steps up. That and mind you, he's the squadron leader.
Yeah.
How did he just didn't want to look?
We've always said, and guys that have been in the military and aviation and stuff, they know. If chances are that you have to check a bolt,
Mhm.
and it's telling you in your checklist to check a certain bolt, is because something happened and somebody missed it.
Yep.
That's why it's written in the
Yeah.
They always said
in the
if
guide.
there's a reason for a
Because-
safety issue.
Yeah, if because something happened, let's say, uh, let's say the tires. I'm just using tires. So let's say the tires, plane takes off, lands, and the tire was never aired up.
Mhm.
Man, someone forgot to put air in the tire.
Yeah.
Guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna put
Air pressure.
They're gonna put a
Checklist.
checklist. They're going to make the checklist, and it's going to say, check, verify, tire pressure, da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the books were like this thin, and then it turned out to be this thick. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
those are. But again, a lot of people think, well, that's the bad thing. No, because they fly countless hours
They do. They
And
do.
how many mistakes do they have?
Yeah.
You see, so
Hardly
hey,
ever,
you
yeah.
got, you gotta give them
Well,
credit.
no,
I mean,
and that
You gotta give them credit.
the
Yeah.
biggest thing is that I always, it's a running gag for me every time, like and I train guys all the time, is when I show them a checklist on our QA system and stuff like that, and it says check it says check bolts on the jet truck, and they're like, that's kind of stupid. I'm like, that's good that you said that. I tell them, because guess what, if there's a stupid reason why we have to check this, it's because somebody stupid didn't.
Yeah.
Somebody did not, like, there's reason why, because, oh, wear a helmet, like when they say wear a cover
Face
face
shield,
shield
Face
or
shield,
whatever,
because
when
yeah.
you're dumping, and I dumping laboratory services
Oh,
on planes, that
I got one of
they say
those.
you must
Yeah.
wear a facial cover. Why do you think that is? Because somebody didn't, and something happened. They got crap
disease,
Yeah,
or whatever. No.
poop all over their
yeah,
faces and
yeah.
stuff like that. That's why we have those safeties. That's why you have a
Yeah,
checklist.
no, there's a. I think for me, that was one of them where a guy we had a lab and it was a hawker.
Ah, the donut. Yeah,
Yeah, you know, so we got to get in there and just and remove it.
but he didn't,
But he did
and
it.
he dumped it right.
And well, no, he didn't dump it. We had to go get a bucket. And
Well, that's what I'm saying.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
He pulled the
You had to
dump
pull. Yeah.
without pulling the donut.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing was is that I was under there. I'm like, here, you better get a face mask. You know, get everything. And I got the bucket and I put it right under there. I'm like, all right, cool. And I think he might have, when I said all right, cool, I think he might have misinterpreted me.
All right, go.
Yeah, and as soon as I turned around, I saw him reach over and he was gonna, and he did it. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then he had the bucket up there with him. I'm like, and I turned around and by the time it was too late, bam, that thing, dumping and he fell back with it and like that.
Oh, man.
And then I'm like, dude, I told you, I'm like, oh, dude, I told you to wait. I told you to wait. He's like, it's all right. It's like, it's okay. It's okay. He like scooch out of his,
What-
you know,
what is he gonna say?
You know what I mean? Like, golly.
Dude.
And then I think one of the coolest ones that I've had is when there was one time it was windy out and it was when that dust just came in.
Yeah.
And on the flight line, well, there's nothing to cover, nothing. I mean, no buildings. So that it was Mad Max out there. So this is all covered up, and you can see. I had to start like 10 T-38s because they wanted to go, and on top of that, the wind had shifted, so it shifted from south to north. So they were facing, the direction that they were supposed to park. Yeah. So the heat was already getting you, and then the dust. So
That
I
happened
went
to
over
me.
there.
Yeah.
And I hauled and I was hauling, boom, boom, and I was hauling left and right trying to get those things. And I was on a roll, so I was moving, and I was getting gassed by the third, fourth one. And all of a sudden, I'm in there, and I look up, I see 4 pilots, in their cockpits. He's telling me, yeah, like that, yeah. He's telling me a thumbs up, and then one guy touched me on the shoulder. He gave me a tip for $25 because because in airports like that we accept tips. That was the only time I guess a T-38 pilot ever tipped anybody there.
Yeah,
so,
no, military does not tip.
Yeah,
We've
they
never done
they
that.
gave me $25 because there's 12 of them. They were boom, 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 boom,
But to
getting
be
out of
honest,
there.
like
So,
when it comes to the military, I really like interacting. One of the cool interactions that I had was, mind you, the most bad mother, like that I was saying. He gave me a patch too, and he's F-18 pilot. So, oh, they're coming through here. The F-18 pilot, they're got there. He landed, and then he said, "Hey man, I am going through. Can you get my grandparents are here? Is there any way they could come out and look at the plane with me? Because I wanted to show them out." I was like, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
no problem. Older people, very fragile and stuff like that. Because mind you, homeboy's like in his almost damn 40, like pushing 40. They're gonna be older, so get them in there. Okay, cool, having fun. And I walked around. I'm like, man, dude, like, how long have you been a pilot? And I'm like, this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've done tours and everything, and like. And I didn't know this, but with F-18 pilots or even A-10 pilots, when they mount their rockets and stuff like that, and when they arm them, they have a bungee cord.
Yeah.
They have a bungee cord that they pull, and that's when it's armed and they're ready to go. Yeah. But they give those bungee cords to the pilot. Every missile that they've shot, they give them that bungee cord that they took off. And I was like, oh, really? That's cool. And he's like, yeah, dude, I've done a lot of tours. He opens his bag. Man, the amount of cords that he had. He had to wrap them out, and dude, bigger than my hands that I could wrap. but he had like 3 bundles of those
Respect.
mothers, and I'm just like,
Respect.
sir, are you like?
Respect.
I thought those were trained. Like some of those are like training missiles, right? Like no,
No.
those are. He's like, I've shot anything from a person to a convoy to a tank to a this. And I'm like, God damn! So I was like, that is freaking amazing. I'm like, yeah, dude, I've shot a lot of things down. And then,
We
mind you, after that, I was like, damn, that's great. His grandparents are just, oh my goodness, so this is so good. And they were telling me, Mom, I'm so thankful that you let me. I haven't seen him in a while. And then he was like, well, sir, you're going to take off. Why don't you get into the truck? Let's drive out on the runway, get close up to it, so you could see him fly over.
That's wild.
And they were like, can we do that? There's no way we could. I'm like, yes, we can, ma'am. Don't worry. It was on the weekend, too. And I was the only one there. Of course I can
He
do
might
it.
be the man flying, but I'm the man on the
I'm the
ground.
man on
I'm
the
the man on
ground.
the ground. I can do it. Got him out there, and they saw him. Oh, my God. She started crying. I'm like, oh, they started hugging. I'm like, that. And he was like, because he pulled me aside. He's like, hey, man, thank you for showing them a good time. And he just, here you go, bro.
Oof.
No, that's amazing. When
We
you
yeah.
can do stuff like that as a ground crew, it's pretty sweet. I'll tell you the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me when I was out there. So I'm recovering now in transit alert. I recover everything from civilian, sub-civilian, military, all walks of military, big airplanes, little airplanes, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that I was able to get that job because it gave me a variety of experience on all sorts of aircraft. Anyway, so one day I recovered this T1.
Yeah.
Right? T1. I recovered it. He was like, let's say the area was there was no aircraft in the area in our parking spots.
Mm-hmm.
So he parked on one side, let's say the north side, right?
Yeah.
And the 2 pilots came out and, hey, sir, how you doing? Yeah, we're going to get something to eat. All right, how much fuel you want? The routine. So I'm like, okay, cool. Now, at that particular time, I also had an Apache helicopter coming in, right? So I got in my vehicle. I went to the south side of my parking ramp, and I parked the Apache helicopter.
Yeah.
Landed. Guy got off. Takes off his helmet and everything. Front seater was the what do you call it? The gunner, if you will.
Yeah.
The pilot sits in the back seat, right? Well, the front seater got out right away.
Uh-huh.
So I asked him, like, hey, sir, we need any fuel? What's up? He goes, no. We're not going to need any fuel. We're just going to get something to eat, whatever, and then we're going to be hightailing it out of here. I said, all right, cool. And then the backseater got off. But when he got off, remember, T1's already gone. They were eating stuff. The backseater got off, he took his helmet, and he put his shades on. When he got off, I looked at him and I go, God damn. In my head, I said that. I didn't say it out loud, but I looked at him like, God damn, that's like deja vu, man. I could have sworn this guy looks just like that guy over there in the T1. I said it to myself. Left it alone. They walked in, to go get lunch. So now an hour went by. I went inside and I told my buddies. I said, man, the funniest thing just happened. Dude, that pilot looks like that pilot. I just said that, right? Like, oh, they all looked alike, the joke. They're all dressed in green.
Yeah.
So then they were getting ready to leave. So the T1 pilots came out first. So I go over there to get him ready, get him prepped. As I'm getting him prepped, I saw his name, right? His last name, mainly. And at that time when I'm helping him out, the other pilots from the helicopter came out, and they were walking but they're on the south side, right? So they couldn't hear each other. You can't talk to each other. Flight line's pretty big. So they were walking, and I told this guy, I said, hey, sir, you're going to find this funny, but that guy over there, he looks just like you. So I kid you not, man. And the guy goes, really? And then his partner, right, the guy that was with him, he goes, hey, don't you have a brother in the army? He goes, and now he's looking. Now he's looking like.
no,
Oh no.
Now he's looking
Yeah.
across, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I do. I have a brother in the army. I said, but man, I ain't seen him in like 3 or 4 years. And I'm like,
Damn.
I was like, I'll be right back. I got in the truck and I drove all the way over there, right?
Yeah.
I get to the other side. And the guys are getting ready to go in, and they're doing the little,
Yeah.
walk around, whatever. And I get off and say, sir, excuse me, sir. I said, can I see your last name? So he got up and I saw his name and goes, hey, man, you're not going to believe this. But that guy over there,
He
looks just like you.
And I think he's got the same last name as yours. And then the other guy looks at him and he goes, well, are they Air Force? I said, yeah, those guys are Air Force. So he goes, man, I do have a brother in the Air Force. He says, yeah. No, it can't be. I said, I'm telling you, he looks just like you. I said, you want me to take you up there so you can see? He goes, now I'm curious. I said, I'm telling you, come here, let's just go take a look.
Yeah.
Now, by this time, the Air Force guys in the T1, now he's just standing by the nose. Now he's curious, right? So now he's just standing by the nose. And he sees me getting the other pilot, putting him in the truck, right? Get in the truck. And I start driving. And he goes, man, it's going to be wild if it's him. And I pull up.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I pull up, the guy's there like, man.
That was pretty cool.
Man, they
that was
hug
pretty
and
cool.
everything. It was like,
Wow.
dude, mom ain't gonna believe this. I said, yeah, it was a brothers, different branch. They never haven't seen each other in 4 years, man, and they wound up meeting there. Dude. They just round.
Yeah.
I thought it was the coolest thing in the
Cool.
world, man. I was like, damn.
Well, I tell you, that's a lot of different stories that we all run into during our time of aviation. Coolest thing I've ever. I mean, we'll probably continue it a little bit more. We will continue this conversation next round because the coolest thing I've been to was in a TV show. So
that's a good one to start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's a
we'll
good
start.
one.
We'll start off with that one.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah.
If you have a story, have a story, share it with
us. Put it in the comment section. Share it, and we'll give you a shout out.
Maybe we'll come up with another segment to talk about.
Oh, I got a good segment. How many of you guys forgot something and the plane took off?
Yeah. Oh, I have a story. For that one. But all right, yeah. Well, we'll continue in the next round. Until then, thank you for joining us. Shout out to my cousin Justin. He told me he was tuning in, so give him a good shout out. So,
mi carnal, Freddie, Houston.
Thank you guys.
Next program, we're gonna have a special guest, Blake.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Blake is gonna be here with us. We still gotta get our times coordinated right. He said hopefully next time, next show,
yeah.
he'll be tuning in. And for those guys that love to practice with guns, that like to have
weapons training,
tactical training.
Yeah.
This is for the self-defense.
Yeah.
This is for the moms, the dads, the people like us.
Yeah,
that
regular
are just,
people.
regular people.
Yeah,
that want to learn.
Yeah.
Self-defense from your house. He's coming up with this new program. You're gonna love it, and he's gonna put it available for the public. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. So, thank you for joining us again. And this has been 2 cents because we got 3.